welcome to another episode of Smash TeeVee, where we once again take a look at all the media we saw and whether you should drop it, check it, or smash it. Let's get into it, shall we? 14 Cameras is the sequel to 2015's 13 Cameras about a sleazy, ugly, mouth-breathing landlord who spies on his tenants for his own pleasure and of course decides to take it a couple of more steps too far. In this movie he upgraded to an Airbnb, luring in unexpected customers with an alluring photo of a blonde woman and rich, expensive housing. What follows is a lot of scenes of tweens undressing without showing anything, plenty of scenes of open gaping mouths, a couple of moments ripped from the first movie and plenty of filler. We switch back and forth between the stalked family, a couple of women he holds captive and his son, which turns this movie into a disjointed mess that does not impress. The first movie is tense, to the point and unapologetic. This one hops around like a spastic bunny and doesn't go anywhere. My advice, watch 13 Cameras instead and leave this one alone. Drop that. Death Sentence has Kevin Bacon running around as a not-so-convincing executive who witnesses the murder of his son by a gang of thugs. As you might expect, he gets over his head quite quickly, making the gang come back with a vengeance. But as vengeance goes, things escalate further. Revenge movies have a certain fondness in my heart, if I even have one, though a truly good revenge movie makes you sympathize with the wronged person. In the case of Death Sentence, I didn't feel enough sympathy to get me on board. Kevin Bacon somehow looked wrong for the part and I couldn't picture him in the role. The action is okay and it does offer a few surprising moments, but for a revenge flick this one left me hanging. Check that. Don't wait, Django, shoot. For those who might not be in the know, Django has been a thing for a long time before Tarantino made his Django Unchained movie. So much so there are a total of 31 movies where the character appeared in. With such a track record, there's bound to be movies among them that are mediocre. And Don't Wait, Django, Shoot is one of them. In this story, Django returns home to find his father killed in a business deal gone wrong, and he, of course, sets out for vengeance. What ensues is an on-the-rails version of a spaghetti western that might go through the motions of one but fails to capture the soul of it. It's yet another example that paint by numbers does not equal art. Plenty of others Django movies to choose from, leave this one for one of the last. Drop that. Escape from Pretoria follows the true story of Tim Jenkin and Stephen Lee, two political ANC activists who find themselves imprisoned by the South African apartheid regime in the late 70s. This is one of the many movies that have shed the Harry Potter paint from Daniel A. Radcliffe as he delivers yet another good performance playing the mastermind behind the escape attempt. For those who do not know the history, I'll keep their amazing method of escape for you to discover yourself. Suffice to say, I had to look it up as it seemed so unbelievable. I should have known better knowing the history of the Colditz escape. Definitely check out this movie if you like your history or a good prison escape movie. Check that. Game of Death was Bruce Lee's last movie that, due to his death, wasn't finished for years after his demise. Where these days we can put special effects at work to semi-resurrect the dead on film, these filmmakers had to resort to stunt doubles, lookalikes, and even the usage of a badly cut out photo of Bruce Lee to hide the stand-in's face. Besides footage from Lee's old movies and intentionally badly lit scenes, it even features footage from Bruce Lee's actual funeral. To top it off, it features a scene that pretty much predicts the death of Bruce Lee's son decades later. I felt dirty watching this movie. Besides not being good and having quite boring fight scenes, it left me with a slight taste of disgust. Whether or not it was well intended, Bruce Lee, in my opinion, wasn't respected in making this movie, and I wasn't that embittered like this since I saw the Bruce Lee scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Lovers of martial arts and Bruce Lee, steer clear of this one. For those who want to see a train wreck that potentially uses a man's legacy, have. Drop that. Mom and Dad. If you put Nicolas Cage in your movie, you're bound to end up with something special. It's either so bad you can still enjoy Cage's folly erupt on screen, or Cage's folly makes the movie into something glorious. Mom and Dad is one such movie. We follow Cage and Selma Blair as two parents of two fairly normal kids in a world that all of a sudden is struck with an event that gives all parents the urge to kill their offspring. What follows is a delightfully fun movie where parents go haywire and Cage can, once again, go full out on his insanity. The ending leaves a bit to be desired, but I can understand why they ended it like that. It's good fun. Grab some friends, grab some drinks, some popcorn and have a jolly good time. Just make sure you lock the door so your parents can't come in. Check that. The Plague of the Zombies is a 1966 Hammer horror movie that deals with a doctor investigating a remote village that has been struck by a mysterious illness. He quickly discovers that there's an occult aspect to this disease and that the dead are once more walking the earth. Plague of the Zombies is what I call a soft horror movie that doesn't really produce any frights or discomfort for modern viewers, but was one thought to be scary at the time of making. Because of this, the film becomes merely a look into the past and takes you on a journey through a story that you can see coming from a mile away. The conclusion, however, to me, was so ridiculous it made the final scenes laughable, especially when the extras forget the role they are supposed to be playing. Overall an enjoyable movie for the most part, though definitely not the best in the Hammer series. Check that. Toxic Avenger was one of those 80s movies that became an overtime hit and inexplicably even became a children's cartoon. The trauma film, which featured sex, violence and gore in an over-the-top spoof on superheroes, definitely was not for children, but the almost lovable geek-turned-monster hero, including Mop, most definitely was. The first Toxic Avenger is a low-budget and campy spectacle. It's fun, it's funny, it's sexy. In short, it's entertaining. It's everything the 80s was smashed together into one big deformed pile of delicious toxic goo. And its importance and influence is bigger than one might expect. Smash that. Velvet Buzzsaw. Velvet Buzzsaw is another one of those movies that does not know what it wants to be. Half of the movie feels like a 90s satirical comedy about the folly of the art scene, including preppy gallery owners, gay critics, arrogant artists and clueless art connoisseurs. The other half is a supernatural horror story about haunted artwork killing its owners, coming straight out of an episode of Tales from the Crypt. I'm gonna be short about this movie, it doesn't work. What's even more baffling is the inclusion of actor John Malkovich, who seemed to have no real connection to everything else. It was as if he said, "I want to be in this movie," and they wrote a few lines for him they didn't plan to include in the first place. Suffice to say, I can't recommend this movie. Drop that. We Are the Flesh. Sometimes you come across a movie that will make you question existence. That will have you stare at the screen in disbelief, your eyes tracking every moment so your brain can understand. A film that will leave you with questions afterwards, questions that can only be vaguely answered during long discussions. We Are the Flesh shows us a brother and a sister entering a rundown apartment complex in what appears to be a post-apocalyptic world. They encounter a strange man who quickly entangles the two in a web of depravity in the name of survival. This is a movie with layers and hidden meanings, as it slaps you with pornographic images of incestuous and other fornication. This movie is not for the faint of heart or the prude or those who do not wish to see the depravity of mankind. There are more shocking movies out there than this, but if you like to be stirred up a bit, be sure to check this out. Check that. Well, that was it for today. Man, these outros are hard to do. I wonder how the professionals do it. Okay, well, good night, and good luck.